We are Legally Sis. Welcome to our podcast.
The information provided in the show is for general informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice on any subject matter. No attorney-client relationship is created between you and Duran Duran-Schulze Law.
I'm Attorney Gwen.
I'm Attorney March. Welcome to our podcast. Hi, sis.
Hi!
How was your day?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Let's go straight to my very personal question.
Oh my gosh!
Do you have a boyfriend?
I do have a boyfriend.
How long have you been dating your boyfriend?
This is too personal nga. 4 years!
4 years? Why aren't you still married?
Well, that's actually by choice.
By choice. Okay. Isn't it because you've seen a lot of separations, annulments, or you've handled a lot of petition for nullity? That's why you haven't been married up to this point?
Well, not really. Even though I'm a litigator, I'm not yet jaded in love.
Oh wow, good for you. Well, I'm happily married. So what do you do when there are people or potential clients that would come to you and ask for assistance when they are sick and tired of their spouse?
Well, personally, I would advise them to sort out their marriage between themselves first. And then if things did not work out, I would advise them to go into a counseling first. Also, consider that.
Yeah, because when you go to the court, the judge would always ask you anyways, right? If their difference is not really irreconcilable.
Yeah.
So what are the types of people that come to you? What profiles?
Okay, so there are married people who are without children, some with children, and those with mixed marriages. When I say mixed marriages, these are the persons who are Filipinos and married to a non-Filipino citizens.
How about those that are not residing in the Philippines anymore?
Well, yeah, I've encountered also people who ask and are residing abroad, but they can also file for whatever legal remedies they have in order to dissolve their marriage if they really intend to and go to that route, if in case their marriage has not been really, haven't been sorted out.
Okay, let's talk about their legal options. What are the options available to them if they really are not able to live together?
Okay, for parties, if they really wanted to have their marriage dissolved, they have the options of filing for a declaration of nullity of marriage, annulment, or legal separation.
So what's the difference between annulment and petition for nullity?
Okay, for petition for annulment, this is the legal remedies if in case a marriage is considered as valid in the first and you will be declaring it as void. And for the declaration of nullity of marriage, the marriage is already void at the beginning. And that there are different grounds for this kind of remedies.
Sounds like these two are kind of complicated. Maybe we break this down to our viewers. Let's first discuss the petition for nullity of marriage.
So for petition of nullity of marriage, these are the marriages that are already void in the beginning. And the parties just want to have it invalidated for purposes of like remarriages. Okay. And there are grounds set by the family code with respect to nullity of marriage. So
what are these grounds?
all right, so grounds are, one is that the marriage has been between the parties who are under 18 years old, even with the consent of their parents. Second is those marriages which are bigamous or polygamous. The third one is for the lack of authority of the solemnizing officer. Fourth is that there is an absence of marriage license.
Where do you usually file if any of these grounds are available?
So you usually file this before the regional trial court, where either of the parties are residing at least 6 months prior to the marriage.
So what if you're outside of the country? For example, you're in OFW. You don't have any residence at all. Where do you file?
Okay, so in that case, you will have to file it at the place where your husband or your wife or just your spouse, where he or she is residing at least 6 months prior to your filing of the petition.
How long do these cases would last?
Well, for cases like this, it will run from a year or more. So it really depends on the schedule of the court, unforeseen events, if in cases that the scheduled hearing are canceled. There are a lot of instances for the case to be dragged on.
If one is ready to file a petition for nullity, what are the things that that person has to prepare to help the lawyer prepare the case for her or him?
For the requirements, you have to have your marriage certificate, definitely in order to establish that you are married to the person that you are um, going to file an annulment or declaration of nullity. And then if you have any children at all, you have to produce their birth certificate. And then you have to establish the residency of either of the spouse. This is for the purpose of jurisdictional requirement, because under the Supreme Court memorandum, the cases should be filed at either of the places of the spouses. So this could be established by your government IDs, wherein it is stated there your address, so your utility bills as well, a barangay certificate that you are actually a resident of that barangay, sketch plan, and then there's also an affidavit or a sworn statement from your lawyer attesting that they have verified that you have indeed are actually residing in that locality. This is in case if the client is the petitioner itself.
Okay, so you've done counseling, you've collated all your requirements. What's next?
All right. There are also instances that the petitioner is referred to a clinical psychologist in order to test or evaluate whether the person or either of the spouses are psychologically incapacitated. No, but this is not a mandatory requirement, as there is already a Supreme Court decision on that saying that psychological evaluation or the testimony of a psychologist is no longer necessary. For psychological incapacity, it must be characterized as incurable, and it must be permanent relative to a specific partner. So it must also be existing at the time or even before or during the marriage of the parties, in order for a psychological incapacity be a ground for the declaration of nullity of marriage.
Okay, so once you have your marriage already voided on the ground of psychological incapacity, can that person remarry again?
Yes, because the psychological incapacity only pertains to a specific person or specific partner. So you can still remarry.
So I have received a number of questions from our followers or readers from our website. So allow me to just ask these questions and tell me what you think.
Okay, go ahead.
Attorney, 4 na taon na kami hindi nagtatali. Ground po ba ito ng paghihiwalay?
Actually, hindi naman siya talagang ground ng paghihiwalay, but it could be considered or fall under the psychological incapacity, among other things, because one of the obligations of the spouses is to also procreate, so andun na yung pagtatalik.
Attorney, I have been in the Middle East for the last 10 years. I haven't seen my ex-husband and I have no contact since. What are my options?
Hanapin mo yung asawa mo.
Hanapin! Gusto na nga maghiwalay eh. Paano daw?
Mahirap yun kasi paano mo may establish yung residency requirement pa lang ng court?
So kung mahanap niya, pwede na siyang mag-file. Kasi siya nasa ibang bansa siya. So kung nasa Pilipinas si asawa, doon yung residency kung saan mag-file ng petition for nullity.
Pero kailangan mo pa rin establish yung grounds niya for nullity.
How about, attorney, yung mga spouse na drug addict o kaya drunkard? Is that a ground?
Being a drug addict and a drunkard is not a automatic ground for the declaration of nullity of marriage.
So if that's the ground, sole ground of separating from your husband, what are the other legal options?
Well, you have an option of filing an annulment instead, or legal separation. But remember, legal separation is just a separation of the spouses from bed and board. It does not really dissolve their marriage. So, hindi ka pa rin pwedeng mag-asawa.
Okay. Thank you, followers and viewers. We have two other topics to discuss, so we'll discuss that in the next episode. So tune in for annulment and legal separation. Bye!